This is part two to the countering misconceptions about training camps in Afghanistan between the years 1990 to 2001. This is actually a briefing summary from the Central Intelligence Agency that was dated August 16, 2006. A lot of the information are coming from detainees in the CIA black site. So a lot of the information in this report is not as accurate. Some of it is accurate. And the stuff that is not as accurate, I'm going to point out. Um, and remember, also take with a grain of salt that everything you see and hear within this report is through the torture of individuals. Now, torture does not always produce results, truthful results. Most of it's fiction to get them to stop the torture. But that doesn't mean that sometimes these people are telling the truth. So it leads us in a state of paralysis. What is true and what is not? And this is where your due diligence comes in regarding the using the scientific method on information, data information, and seeing for yourself what is true and what is not. And this is what separates us from the 9/11 truth movement, unfortunately, because they just believe whatever goes against this narrative they claim exists. I don't believe that there is a 9/11 narrative. I don't think the 9/11 Commission report is the official narrative. I think it's an incomplete one. But they have it in their heads to say that anything that the government produces is false. It's not as simple as that. If it was, we can easily disseminate what is true and what is false. And this is the reason why the 9/11 Truth Movement in general has never taken any judicial action on anything that they believe in. So let's get right to it. This is part two. We're going to read you the report on building the section called briefing notes on the value of detainee reporting. Now, right after this CIA report was drafted, the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence regarding the CIA's torture program a couple of years later came out and showed that a lot of the information that was true on the CIA's part from the detainees was already known to the intelligence community. So, okay, it says here, I'm glad to speak with you widely about the results we have seen from high and mid-value detainee reporting, which since 9/11 has become a crucial pillar of U.S. counterterrorism efforts. To get a sense of the importance of this reporting to the CIA's overall collection effort, let me share some statistics with you. One, since we began the program in March of 2002, detainees have produced over 6,000 disseminated intelligence reports. You wonder how much of that is fabricated information, fabricated intelligence. How much of it is truthful intelligence? Because a lot of it, too, is classified. Two, approximately half of the counterterrorism center's disseminated intelligence reporting in 2004 on Al Qaeda came from CIA held detainees. Three, for both warning and operational purposes, detainee reporting is disseminated broadly among U.S. intelligence and law enforcement entities. Redacted. This part is not true. Very few, especially the declassified information, was indeed shared with the FBI or the Defense Intelligence Agency or the NSA, right? Even local law enforcement, to get additional details on the information that was already provided, so that the CIA can have, more information at their disposal. For today's briefing, I'm going to highlight 5 key areas in which detainee reporting has played a critical role, aiding intelligence and law enforcement operations to capture additional terrorists, helping to thwart terrorist plots, advancing our analysis of the Al Qaeda target, illuminating other collection and validating sources. Before 9/11 happened, the CIA, the NSA, and the FBI had enough intelligence, and this is coming from whistleblowers of all these agencies that came out later, to say that they could have stopped 9/11 had the information collected by all 3 agencies been shared with one another. So it wasn't a problem of collecting the information, it was a problem of sharing it. Now, you can believe that the intelligence agencies wanted the attacks to happen on orders of the state government or the deep state or whatever. But you don't know that for sure. Sure, we could say that they're suspects, but if this was a court of law, which I'm sure that a lot of you who follow my channel are responsible enough to perceive it this way and not foolhardily and just blurt out, speculation as evidence. And remember that even as someone as uncouth as George Tenet, and as a liar as he is not the planner or responsible or had even foreknowledge of the 9/11 attacks. Now, we don't have that information, and we may not ever have the information. He may not have foreknowledge, but we don't know if he did or didn't, because not all information is public. So be careful about who you implicate. Capturing other terrorists. Detainees have given us a wealth of useful targeting information on al-Qaeda members and associates. Detainees have played some role, from identification of photos to providing initial lead and in-depth targeting information in nearly every capture of an al-Qaeda member and associate since 2002, including redacted detentions. We assess as key because the individuals captured represent a significant threat to the United States who are playing leading roles in assisting al-Qaeda. Now, at one point, Guantanamo Bay prison held over 800 detainees. And I think today there are over 24. Now, there's a reason, because a lot of these detainees were charged with crimes that they weren't guilty of. And the other detainees are looking at a trial that may not even happen because these guys were tortured, even if they were guilty and planned 9/11. Say Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, Ahmed al-Hassawi, Tawfiq bin Attash, and now that Omar al-Baluchi is deemed incompetent and Ramzi bin al-Shib was deemed as well as mentally unfit, there's only 3 of them left. But they were all tortured too. Now, even if they were guilty, like I said before, we don't know because they can't go on with a trial that all the information was elucidated through torture, forced out of them. I have handed you graphics that tell me the story of 2 such cases. Unraveling Hambali's network. Hambali is Ridwan Isamuddin. In March of 2003, Al-Qaeda operations chief Khalid Sheikh Mohammed provided information about an Al-Qaeda operative in Majid Khan, whom he was aware had recently been captured. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, possibly believing the detainee operative was talking, admitted to having tasked Majid with delivering a large sum of money to individuals working for another senior Al-Qaeda associate. Now, Majid Khan was released later on without charge. He was tortured, but he was released, innocent of all charges. In an example of how information from one detainee can be used in debriefing another detainee in a building block process, Khan, confronted with Khalid Sheikh Mohammed's information about the money, acknowledged that he delivered the money to an operative named Zubair and provided Zubair's physical description and contact number. Based on that information, Zubair was captured in June of 2003. During debriefing, Zubair revealed that he worked directly for Jemaah Islamiyah. That's where Hambali, Ridwan Isamuddin is from, and Al-Qaeda's South Asia representative, Hambali. Zubair provided information, this is redacted, and arrested Hambali. Next, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was explicitly queried on the issue and identified Hambali's brother, Abd al-Hadi, as a prospective successor to Hambali. Information from multiple detainees, including Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, narrowed down Abd al-Hadi's location and enabled his capture. Bringing the story to full circle, Abd al-Hadi identified a cell of Jemaah Islamiyah operatives, some of them pilots, whom Hambali had sent to Karachi for possible al-Qaeda operations. When confronted with his brother's revelations, Hambali admitted that he was grooming members of the cell for U.S. operations at the behest of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. probably as part of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed plot to fly hijacked planes into the tallest buildings on the U.S. West Coast. Now, this plot was already known to the intelligence community. This was the second wave of operations of the 9/11 planes operation. Now, this idea came from the Pajinka plot, which Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was the co-conspirator with Ramzi Youssef, his nephew. But this was already known to the CIA, the FBI. It was known to the NSA. It was known to the Defense Intelligence Agency, known to the FAA, NORAD. The arrest of Doreen Barrow. Now, just remember, family members of Hambali that were captured were known to Indonesian authorities. They were looking for Jemaah Islamiyah operatives for years. Now, it's no secret that Zubair, an associate of Hambali and associate of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, was also known to the intelligence community. Now, the capture of Zubair may be truthful. That's truthful, but the information coming from Zubair was already known to the intelligence community. So there was no real revelation here besides the capture of these people. The arrest of Doreen Barrow, aka Issa al-Hindi. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed provided the first lead to an operative known as Issa al-Hindi, while other detainees gave additional identifying information. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed also provided the first lead to an operative known as Issa al-Hindi, while other detainees gave additional identifying information. So what they would do is they'll torture individuals that were known to Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, and they'll give information. But according to FBI profilers, and to those that were interviewed by the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence later on, and according to former Guantanamo detainees, that even if you didn't answer truthfully to certain questions, but you gave them what they wanted to hear, that was all that was enough. If you didn't know the answer to a question, you were tortured. And if you gave a really ridiculous answer to a name that's known or not known to the intelligence community, at least they got some right and we could work with it, even if the information is fabricated, because the State Department was pressuring, especially Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld, the CIA to produce results through this torture program, because they were spending millions of dollars on this program through CIA contractors, Dr. Bruce Jessen and James Mitchell, who were the responsible operators of this program called SEER. Survival, Evasion, Resistance, and Escape, I think it was called, SEER. Issa was well known in jihadi circles because he penned a book about his time fighting in Kashmir under his al-Hindi nom de guerre. However, no one seemed to know his true name. And in March of 2004, our hunt for Issa intensified when we received reporting about a possible attack against the U.S. homeland. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed positively identifies the photo as Issa al-Hindi, and we were able to identify through his new search mechanism a separate individual who had traveled to the United States with Issa prior to 9/11. Issa and his former traveling companion, who were arrested in 2004, appear to have been involved in plots in the United Kingdom. Now, Florida Bulldog produced a recent article about this individual, Doreen Barrow, and I would submit to you, the viewer, to go watch that. I did a video on the article itself. Florida Bulldog is the best in the country. Moreover, in early 2004, Issa had briefed U.S. targeting packages to al-Qaeda senior leadership in Pakistan. Issa was well known in jihadi circles because he penned a book about his time fighting in Kashmir under the nom de guerre al-Hindi. It was only through police work coupled with detainee confirmation on his identity that Redacted was able to find him. And now I'll make myself disappear. In addition to these prominent cases, a number of other significant captures have resulted thanks to detainee reporting. It is important to highlight that a number of these cases involve law enforcement's use of our detainee reporting, right? Arrest of key al-Qaeda facilitator. And redacted in debriefings, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed in March of 2003 noted that he had created and used a specified email account to communicate with senior redacted. CIA then determined that Khalid Sheikh Mohammed had been using his account actively in ongoing operational planning for a redacted threat, which Khalid Sheikh Mohammed confirmed. Analysis of redacted emails after Khalid Sheikh Mohammed's detention led to his being located and arrested on redacted 2003. Now, remember, at this time in 2006, a lot of this information was not known to the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence or to the Intelligence Committee as a whole. But the information that was gleaned a lot from these detainees was either, like I said, fabricated or known already to the intelligence community. And that was coming from the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, headed by Dianne Feinstein. And if you haven't seen the film, the report, I please do so. It was a really good film. Identifying the other shoe bomber. Leads provided by Khalid Sheikh Mohammed in November 2003 led directly to the arrest of shoe bomber Richard Reed's one-time partner, Sajid Badak, in the United Kingdom. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed had volunteered the existence of Badat, whom he knew as Issa al-Pakistani, as the operative who was slated to launch a simultaneous shoe bomb with Richard Reed in December of 2001. Jose Padilla. I know that's a name that some of you know. After his capture in March of 2002, Abu Zubaydah provided information leading to the identification of alleged al-Qaeda operative Jose Padilla. Now, remember, Abu Zubaydah in 2006, through the Guantanamo hearings, military tribunal hearings, through the CIA's own words, was found that he was not an al-Qaeda operative, nor was he a fighter, but they ranked him as the number 3 man in al-Qaeda. So they had to tell the truth. Now, he is what they call a forever detainee. He's currently in Guantanamo languishing forever, held without charge. Now, how is this remotely justified? You tell me. And you wonder why there's terrorists when you have unjust laws like this. Rules. I'm not going to call them laws, rules. Because they can't release him because of what they did to him. Now, remember, Jose Rodriguez, CIA's lead case officer, destroyed all the tapes concerning Abu Zubaydah's torture before the Senate Select Committee investigated him. Arrested by the FBI in 2002 as he arrived at O'Hare Airport in Chicago, he was transferred to military custody in Charleston, South Carolina, where he currently is being held. The FBI began participating in the military debriefings in March of 2003. After Khalid Sheikh Mohammed mentioned Padilla might know the true name of a U.S.-bound al-Qaeda operative known at the time as Jafar al-Tayyar. Padilla confirmed Jafar's true name as Adnan el-Shuknajuma. Now, for those in the know, that's a big name. Adnan el-Shuknajuma is a really big name because he was a Florida resident who hosted some of the 9/11 hijackers in his home. How about that? Iman Faris, another name for those in the know. Soon after his arrest, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed described an Ohio-based truck driver whom he identified as Ilmin Faris, already under suspicion for his contracts with al-Qaeda operative Majid Khan, who was found innocent. FBI and CIA shared intelligence from interviews of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, Khan, and Faris on a near real-time basis and quickly ascertained that Faris had met and accepted operational taskings from Khalid Sheikh Mohammed on several occasions. Faris is currently serving a 20-year sentence for conspiracy and material support to a terrorist organization. Bringing new targets to light. A variety of detainee reporting has provided our initial information about individuals having links to al-Qaeda and has given us insight into individuals about whom we had reporting but whose al-Qaeda involvement was unclear. For example, detainees in mid-2003 helped us build a list of redacted individuals, many of whom we had never heard of before. And that's because these individuals probably are low-level or didn't exist, that al-Qaeda deemed suitable for Western operations. We have shared this list broadly with the U.S. intelligence and law enforcement communities. You can see this is redacted. Jafar al-Tayyar first came to the FBI's attention when Abu Zubaydah named him as one of the most likely individuals to be used by al-Qaeda for operations in the United States or Europe. Jafar was further described by detainees whose description of Jafar's family in the United States was key to uncovering Jafar's true name. An FBI investigation identified Gulshir el-Sukna Juma, leader of a mosque in Hollywood, Florida, where Muhammad Atta and Marwan al-Shehi lived, where Abdul Aziz al-Amari, Hani Hanjour, Ziad Jarrah was all seen in the presence of el-Sukna Juma as having a son named Adnan, who matched the biographical and physical descriptions given by the detainees. A be on the lookout notice has been issued for Adnan el-Sukna Juma. He's currently in Saudi Arabia. Most recently, for example, Abu Faraj al-Libi has revealed that an operative we were only vaguely aware was actually sent to, redacted in 2004, to lay the groundwork for al-Qaeda attacks there. Now, that's the end of this chapter. But as you could see, that a lot of the individuals involved are either no longer in Guantanamo or deported to the Gulf. And that's where they live, except for one prisoner who's currently serving a 20-year sentence, Ilman Faris. But Adnan al-Sukna Juma is a key facilitator in all this because he actually left for Saudi Arabia before the 9/11 attacks, left behind a house full of furniture. And according to security cameras that were at the security gate by the residence in which he lived, showed that the cars that were driven by some of the 9/11 hijackers visited el-Sukna Juma's home. Now, we don't know what was going on there, but we do know that Sukna Juma hosted these individuals. So like I said, as you could see, not everything that was produced by torture was false. Very few of it was relevant information. But like I said, a lot of it was known to the intelligence community because the FBI knew about Sukna Juma already. So it's not like this was revelation. So in other words, the torture program really didn't reveal anything new and didn't produce really anything truthful. All it did was delay justice for the 9/11 victims' families for a trial that's never going to exist because of the CIA's own misconduct. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video, everybody. Take care.